So now to our last part. Part 4, routing, firewall policies, and security profiles. So here, I mean, we have our virtual FortiGate appliance, right? It's in the Azure environment, but no traffic is currently flowing through it. So my VMs right now pretty much don't know that the FortiGate exists, okay? So in order to route traffic from the VMs into the FortiGate and through the FortiGate, I need to set some routes, okay? In the Azure world, they're called user-defined routes, okay? Custom routes. Next, I'll be configuring the actual firewall policies just to allow traffic to flow, right? Just like any firewall policy, you gotta say that, okay, from this source to that destination, it's allowed. So that's all we're doing. I'm going to create one for my server out to the internet, as well as allowing subnet to subnet communication, because in this environment, let's say server subnet A is your internal resources, server subnet B is your DMZ. So, you want to restrict what type of communication, right? In our demo, I'm just going to allow complete communication, but ideally you want to lock it down to only specific ports that are required, right? So next on that is actually enabling the NG firewall features. So things like antivirus, IPS for my outside to inside rule to my servers, denial of service policies, which the FortiGate has as well built into it. And of course, web and application filtering, right? And or just at least to have that visibility into what's flowing in and out of your environment. And then next is enabling full SSL inspection, so which is also known as deep packet inspection, right? So just to kind of cover that a little more, I mean, you have to remember that nowadays, roughly about 97 to 98% of all traffic, okay, leaving your network, coming into your network, they're all encrypted. So if that traffic is encrypted, you don't have visibility into what is in the data payload. You don't know what's in there. Okay, your firewall doesn't know what's in there. So in order to inspect that, your firewall needs to have the capability to decrypt that packet, look at it, inspect it, make sure there's nothing malicious in there, or even just to ensure that your content filtering is applied properly, and then re-encrypt it and then send it on its way. So the same applies when it's coming back from a web server or location into your environment. It'll decrypt it, look at the payload, and then re-encrypt it and send it to you. Okay, so that's just the gist of it, right? So here we go. We'll jump in. So here I have my FortiGate appliance, but I need to route traffic through it. Okay, so I'm just going to create a route in Azure, just called a route table. I'm going to do this for server A. Okay, so I'll apply it directly to its subnet. I'll just use the same resource group, same location, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit create. And this is no different than adding routes, okay? In your on-prem environment, it's just approached somewhat differently, okay? But same concept. So here I have my object. I'm going to go and add my route, and I'm going to say, to get to the internet, okay, use the FortiGate. So I'm selecting virtual appliance, and here you'll see my route, and my next hop, that's the inside interface on that virtual FortiGate. Okay, the transport subnet, that IP that's assigned to the LAN. And here I can assign it directly to my server A subnet. And now that route applies to the entire subnet. So any other VMs I spin up in that subnet will get that same routing, okay? So I've already done that for server subnet B, just to save some time. And then there you can see both of my routes. So now going back to my FortiGate, of course, you need the firewall policies. I've already created that. There's my server to internet. It's no different than like a LAN to internet, okay? And here's a really cool feature of the FortiGate. If you're using SSL VPN, okay, you can do it through just your web browser. So here I can sign in with my VPN credentials. And then through there, I can launch stuff like RDP, right? So instead of opening up RDP on my firewall, I can use SSL VPN through the web, enable RDP either into a workstation or let's say you have an RDS or terminal server environment. It's a really nice way to pop in. So here I'm on server A, and you can see I have internet access, okay? Now what I don't have is communication between server A and server B because they're on completely different subnets. So here I'm going to do a constant ping, and you're going to see that it's just going to fail, okay? And so this is real easy. I'll just create a new policy. This is like a LAN to LAN policy. If you have multiple VLANs, it's no different. So I'll call it subnet to subnet. My incoming and outgoing interface is just the inside interface. And then my source and destination address is just, I'm just going to set it to all. So that's going to cover all of the servers. And then of course, all services. If I wanted to lock it down to just RDP, I could do that too. And then, you know, if this is a DMZ environment, I can enable AV between those two subnets, just so I'm filtering that traffic. So there we are. Go back to my VM. You can see now I'm able to communicate with server B. Okay, so pretty straightforward. Okay, so next here, you'll notice I'm accessing the FortiGate still through its public IP. You definitely want to close that off, right? So I'm going to open up management to my internal interface instead. Okay, so I'm going to enable HTTP, HTTPS, and then I'm going to turn it off on my WAN in that order. Okay, because if you turn it off on your WAN initially, you're going to lock yourself out. I can apply botnet site detection, which is a great option that FortiGates provide, along with your regular antivirus subscription. Okay. So here I'm just gonna show you that I'm now accessing the FortiGate through the inside interface because I can no longer access it through the public, which is what you want. And there we go. So now I'm accessing the FortiGate through server A, okay? Next here, you know, I want to apply some default, you know, security profiles, right? AV, web filter, DNS, and I'll drill into a couple of them here just so you can see some options. Again, I'm not going to go into a lot of details, but, you know, if you have any other questions or want more of a demo, I can definitely set that up separately. So DNS, we're doing botnet filtering. For web filtering, I'm just blocking, you know, just security risk categories, right? I'm going to just allow traffic to be logged. This is great. So if I need to investigate anything, I can. It's all being logged. Here I have my outside to inside rule, right? Like destination NAT. So if I have access coming out from the outside to a server internally, I want to enable AV, of course, IPS. There are a couple default options available, pre-made ones. So if I have an HTTP server, I could just choose that because I only need to filter HTTP related vulnerabilities, right? In this case here, I'm just going to select default and then just allow logging, okay? So there we are. So I have those policies in place. Also for my outside to inside server, right? If someone's connecting to my server internally from the outside, what if they're doing like a denial of service attack or scanning your public IPs for vulnerable or open ports? So the FortiGate also provides denial of service policies and protection. So I can configure it here to pretty much detect and block, you know, port scanning or somebody doing a TCP flood against one of my web servers. So I can do that based on a lot of different options available here. Again, you know, you can really get into it, and there's a lot of options available. I'm just kind of quickly skim over it, but mainly just to show you that it's available. Okay, and this is a part of the UTM licensing. So there we are. We have our denial of service policy. So going back here, you know, SSL inspection, right? So right now I'm not doing deep packet inspection. It's just certificate level inspection, okay? It's not decrypting and re-encrypting anything. So here, I can go ahead and go to my deep inspection profile. I can exempt sites like finance and banking if I want to, if there's any sites sensitive to inspection. And then all I need to do is just download the certificate straight from the FortiGate. It's right there. And then with that certificate, just install it on any endpoint that's going to be subjected to having its traffic inspected. Okay. So here, just quickly, I'm going to install the cert. I'm going to add it to my trusted root certificate authority store. And there we are. So now I have that cert from the FortiGate applied on my VM. Okay, and I'm going to subject the VM to deep packet inspection. So here I can just drill into my policy and just enable deep inspection. And that's it. So now what I'll do is I'm going to just open another tab in incognito, just so we have a fresh session. I'm going to go to Fortinet, and you'll see here in the certificate validation, it's valid, it's secure, and you're going to see it's issued by the FortiGate. So that tells me that my packet, my SSL traffic is being inspected. It's visible to the FortiGate. Okay. And again, this is huge to have your firewall have that visibility. So your content filtering is accurate, it's precise. Here I can drill in directly into the policy and look at my traffic logs. So there's my server A. I can see my destinations or what applications are currently being used, websites, web categories. So I mean, there's a lot, right? And last but not least here, you want to tie in this FortiGate and this Azure environment back to your on-prem for that hybrid setup. So if you have two FortiGates, you can easily use the wizard, and I mean literally in a couple of clicks, you have your IPsec VPN tunnel built out. Okay. If you don't have two FortiGates, that's fine. It uses IPsec, that's the standard, and you can easily build out that tunnel as well. Okay. So hopefully that wasn't too much, too quickly. There's only so much I can try to squeeze in this time that we have, but I hope that was, overall informative for you. But again, just to recap what was covered. So in part 4, we looked at, routing traffic from your Azure environment into the NG firewall, in this case, the FortiGate. We have the firewall policy configured for inside to outside, outside to inside, as well as subnet to subnet communication, what that looks like. Enabled a couple of NG firewall features right off the bat. Again, things like botnet, IP detection, that's huge. Botnet command and control, DNS, IPS, denial of service. I mean, there's a lot, right? Enabling full SSL or deep packet inspection. There's also other parts of the security fabric that FortiGate offers as well, right? You have FortiClient EMS, where it provides endpoint protection, as well as if you have company issued laptops or whatnot, and you want to enforce web and application filtering, even when they're off net, that's what FortiClient EMS can do. There's the FortiAnalyzer, which is just this, really robust logging and reporting platform that Fortinet provides that integrates with the FortiGate to give you, log retention of a year or more. You can hold the logs for as long as you need. So if you need to archive and pull any logs, for any issues that arise, later on down the road, you have those logs available to you